Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Care Chats. Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick. Grab a mug of care and join us for some Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.
Yes, please.
Hi, everyone. We're here. Tanya Mark and Nick Benegoni. We're here for a care chat. And the vibes that we're picking up on that called us into this care chat are Saturn is moving into Aries on Saturday, May 24th. And we were talking about that and this idea of how do we apply care to ourselves. The other energies we've been working with include Venus being in Aries, asking us to take a look at our values and, do what lights us up. So those are kind of the energies that we're swimming around in on this care chat.
Yeah, and we were talking about discipline and care.
Yeah, that's one of the energies of Saturn actually is invites us to look at discipline and responsibility and organization. So we were talking about that in terms of navigating family care and communication and boundaries and etc.
Yeah. And it's, I think that Aries is going to sort of light a fire under our butts to take more action around this kind of discipline. What are the lessons that Saturn has to teach us around discipline, structure, boundaries, and as we always talk about here, surrounding care. So what are the ways that we can start to feel more empowered to continue to hold the structure or to hold on to our practices for care? Like we were talking today about how this morning, I showed up to my Zoom yoga class and the teacher wasn't there. I was like, well, I still need to stretch, so I'm just going to do some stretching. And, I didn't do a full-blown yoga class, but I was like, oh, I can feel my hips and my legs and all this stuff from sitting all week that I need to just sit and stretch and move and breathe. And I had some time where I was listening to some music. I listened to a podcast by our dear friend, Jonathan Coe. I talked to a friend, but all while, just stretching. So you can do multiple things.
Yes, and we're not saying that in the oppressive way, like do many things at once. Like I want to clarify that what we were talking about in discipline is that when we bring in the practices of consistency with our care. So for example, you attend yoga a few times a week. I attend Sargam and Kirtan practice with our dear friend Mix Puja 3 times a week. Right. So even in the times where if like a teacher doesn't show up or something happens where we're not able to attend the session, because that consistency of practice, the discipline of it is in our body, mind, and spirit, we can find ways to honor that. So you honored it in a way that allowed you, I think what I named was it was like community and movement was what you brought into the mix, because you also, were able to chat with a dear friend and stretch. And so, there's no, it's intention, right? Also behind those things. So intention, I also feel can be looked at as a discipline in a way of how do we practice that? Yeah, that's awesome. I love that parallel to that. I was thinking of, just heads up to our listeners. Saturn is moving into Aries and it's going to be there for almost about 2.5 to 3 years. But I will say, I really appreciate Cam White, the astrology poet, who kind of laid it out for us that from now, May 24th until September, this is like our prep. This is the prep time where we can go, let me take a look at that toolkit. Let me take a look at my boundaries. Let me take a look at my practices. Let me take a look at how I'm navigating accountability and responsibility. So I really appreciate Cam mentioning that, right? Like it's a prep time. And so let's like get in there and take a look at things and see what might need to be adjusted.
And then what happens in September?
Just things get moving. So then what happens in September is that actually Saturn goes into retrograde and goes back into Pisces for a minute. So we might be asked to go back into, again, thank you, Cam White. We might be asked to go internally and look at some watery aspects of things. With Saturn being in Aries, we're going to be looking at external things like actions we are taking, ways to be bold, and to do this collectively, by the way. We do not have to do this alone. right? You and I talk about and share and things that are going on in our lives all the time, and we parallel them to, well, how are we taking care of ourselves, and what do we need to unpack and process? So it's not to be designed alone either. I think you can bring in a collective element
Mm-hmm.
to it as well.
So how can we be in
Yeah.
community and still take care of ourselves, take care of each other, and take action to support each other in all of our tools?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm going to connect it to a recent event in my family that we are navigating collectively. We had an unexpected death in our family. And with that unexpected death has come the invitation to navigate grief and loss. And so what I have learned is that, grief is not a one size fits all gig. And so I've learned that sometimes just a simple text hello to someone, rather than laying into oh, how are you doing? And blah, 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 or just a simple conversation with my sibling, right? And having a reflection of remembering how significant this person was in our
Mm-hmm.
lives, right? And so I think there's many ways to navigate things. And I feel like a collective response to this is, how do we meet people where they're at while still holding and adhering to our boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and our care?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, well, it's similar. My parents lost their home in the fires in Los Angeles and Altadena in January.
Mm,
And I think there's a way also that has
mm,
created more connection and support from our family to come together and rally around them.
mm,
And I can also see how, collectively that there's a lot of fear and anxiety and loss that's happening in the world right now with climate crisis and all the political turmoil around the world,
mhm.
particularly in Palestine and with climate crisis.
Well, at this point, it's happening everywhere. The EU, China, like it's happening globally on many, many levels, right? So I appreciate you bringing that in and naming it.
Yeah, so I think that really noticing when we have fear, when we have grief, when we have loss, and it's a way for us really to tap into our tools for self care, but also to tap into community
Yes.
in whatever ways that you can.
And I want to sprinkle this in because we talk about this stuff, and I'm that it also includes being messy, y'all. Like these kinds of things, grief and loss, like come with, don't get twisted. Sometimes I'm like texting Nick, like, may I unpack this? And then later on, just like blah blah,
Uh,
you know what I mean? Or to another community support
mm-hmm,
person, right? Because community is part of Care Toolkit. We don't navigate these things alone. So do we have people in our lives that we can in an unedited way unpack so that we're releasing that
mm-hmm.
information, right? That is also a way to do that and to allow for the mess. I think there's discipline in being able to allow for messy and letting loose and letting things out and releasing too.
Yeah,
So I want to name that as like, this isn't like la, 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 la. It has some moments of not
yeah.
so la 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 la, you know what I mean? And I say that like tears, anger, like the spectrum of emotions.
Yeah, and to find support outside of yourself where you can, for people who have community to seek support there, or for people who have spiritual community to, go to spiritual mentorship for support. And for people who maybe feel alone, to really remember that the earth is here to support us. I
Ashe,
often tell
ashe.
people, here, we're lucky we live on the coast and we're by the ocean. But when you go to the beach, for those of you who've been to the beach at the ocean, there's so much space and so much sound that it can actually hold you and just take in and absorb whatever you want to release. You can be as loud as you want to at the beach. And if people are more than 10 feet away from you, they probably won't hear you. And you can throw things into the water, natural things, not trash, but throw rocks, throw
Yes,
sand,
yes.
kick, scream, or go out to the forest or go out to the desert or wherever you are, or go to a park And if you aren't close to a natural area, you could visualize all of that. You could do art, you could draw, you could write, you can journal. There's so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also online community. There's lots of resources out there. We have stuff that we offer.
Yes.
We have other people that we support and
we do.
spotlight in our community who also offer online support circles that are free or by donation. So yeah, there's lots out there. And if you need ideas, please reach out and we can do our best to try to help you find something.
Yeah, we do. We are very honored to offer 3 monthly care circles, right? And these are care chats where we're also providing an opportunity for someone to drop in and listen to a little bit of care and maybe relate and hopefully get a little sprinkle or care nugget of aha, yeah, maybe from this today, someone will go, I haven't reached out to a homie yet to kind of process, and it encourages that reach out, So Saturn in Aries says, like, hey, we, take our wisdom, our experience, and tap into that. We have navigated things that may be challenging in the past. So how can we take all of the wisdom and experience from those, bring it, into the present and tap into that and say, hey, like, even if we feel like we may not have the resources, right? We do. They're there. They just might be there in a way that looks a little differently. So Saturn and Aries may ask us to kind of shift and look at, where are we looking for that too. So I really, yeah, potent stuff to work with, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's take a breath into that.
Yeah, let's do it. And if you're driving, we ask that you do so in a mindful, safe way, just kind of reaching an inhale through the nose, a nice release through the mouth. And if it's safe to do so, maybe a little stretch, a shimmy, a shake, being accountable, very Saturnian and responsible for our energy and our bodies and system, shaking off anything that doesn't belong. Ooh, you're getting goobly gobbly. I love
Doing
it.
the wiggle.
Nick.
My yoga teacher tells us to do a little wiggle in between poses sometimes.
Yeah, the S's. Ooh, I love it. I love that. That's amazing. Shaking it off, shaking the hands, the legs, a twist in the torso, looking up, looking in a different direction, giving love to all sides of the body, the right, the left, the top, the bottom.
Yawning.
Yes. So, y'all, as you continue to navigate these times, please know that you are not alone. We want to invite you to continue to take care of yourself and that we continue to take care of each other. Should we tell them the good news? I feel like I want to start sprinkling in some good news.
Yeah,
like,
let's tell them. What's the good news?
The good news, y'all, we have been invited to participate in a regular segment on the Gailey Show. So we'll be hearing an additional once a month care chat that'll also be going out to the Gailey Show. Our dear friend John Parker and many other beautiful individuals are holding it down and bringing mindful, informative information about what's happening in our world. And we're going to be bringing some sprinkles of care. Are you excited?
I'm super excited. I just want to, I'm looking up the call number so I can share it with people who are in the area.
Oh, yes. And while Nick is doing that, I will say that you can join us there. We always love it when y'all leave comments or follow us in all of the necessary platforms, et cetera, and to find us on the Gailey Show.
Yeah, so the Gailey Show is AM 950 in Minnesota for those of you who are local to that area. I believe it's in the Twin Cities area. Otherwise, you can also find it online on Spotify, on their website. If you go to am950radio.com, and I think it's also on YouTube. On YouTube, you can watch the videos. So I don't know if we'll have a video portion to our part, but we'll find out. We'll let you know.
We sure will. In the meantime, y'all, you can find us on a first Saturday, a third Sunday, or for those who identify as POGM or POC, people of color, on a fourth Sunday at a care circle, or you can catch any of our recordings on the Queer Spirit podcast. We're so grateful for y'all.
Thank you, everyone. Keep caring for yourself and for each other.
Bye.
Care chats.
Care Chats with Tanya, Mark, and Nick.